Hello and welcome to this afternoon's online session on doomscrolling and mental health, which forms a part of this year's York Festival of Ideas. My name is Dr. Kyla Pennington. I'm a senior lecturer in mental health at the Department of Psychology here at the University of York, and I'm delighted to be chairing this session for you today. This event has been presented in collaboration with CITY College, which is our University of York Europe campus. And I'm really happy to introduce our speaker for today's session, Anna Orfanidou. I hope I've pronounced that right, Anna. So Anna is a researcher and lecturer with CITY College, and she's been teaching journalism and communication for 10 years. Alongside teaching, she works as a journalist and is a member of the North Greece Editors Union. Today, Anna will examine how we reclaim control over our digital lives and break the cycle of constant negative media consumption, giving us some tools for fostering mindful engagement, empowering individuals to shift from passive scrolling to active, conscious online interaction. So without further ado, Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I'm really glad to be here with you online. Hopefully next year I'll be there at York, but now here from Thessaloniki, from Greece, we'll be discussing about doom scrolling, and I have to admit that it was a challenge for me to present this because it's a constant stress to have all this bad news in our lives. We will manage, hopefully today, to get rid of them. So if you are ready, I can share my screen. Now, I'll start my presentation. Doom scrolling in the relation with psychological distress and well-being indicators, and hopefully we'll make some waves for the York Festival of Ideas. So, I will start with a simple question. How many hours did you spend scrolling yesterday? And I have to admit that this is exactly what I thought when I started writing my presentation. According to the latest available data, people spend an average of 2.5 almost hours scrolling every day, and that's from a study from Sharkar et al. This year study. It published 2 months ago, actually. So almost 2.5 hours every day for scrolling. Okay, just think about yourself. How many hours did you spend scrolling yesterday? Do not answer now, but eventually at the end of this presentation we will go back to that. So let me give you a quick roadmap of what we will explore together over the next 55 minutes, 50. We'll start by defining doom scrolling, of course, and what it really means and why it has become such a widespread behavior, especially in our always connected world. That's the first thing. Next, we'll dive into why it is so hard to stop, looking at both the psychological factors and how digital platforms are designed to keep us scrolling. And of course, we will also touch on the very real impact this has on our mental health. From there, we'll shift towards solutions, exploring practical tools and strategies you can use to break the cycle and set healthier boundaries with your media consumption. I will explain what media consumption is, and we will talk about how to go beyond avoiding harm and instead use technology in a more intentional and purposeful way. It's not just about cutting back, okay? It's about changing how we engage. Finally, we will end with a moment of reflection and empowerment, and I will give you space to think about what I've just asked you, what you want to change in your digital life. So if you're ready, let's begin by unpacking the concept of doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is the habit of continuously scrolling through bad news, negative posts, distressing updates online, often for long periods and often without even realizing how much time has passed. And that's tremendous, if you ask me. It became widely recognized during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then at that point, people were glued to their screens, trying to make sense of a rapidly changing world. In reality, this behavior existed well before, and it has only intensified with our constant digital connectivity. So it goes on today. What makes doom scrolling different from just reading the news? It's that typically compulsive and emotionally draining, and you might start with good intentions. I mean, you might start for just to stay informed, okay? You end up deep in a rabbit hole of negativity, and you're not just consuming content, you're feeding a loop that leaves you more anxious or helpless than before. And often this happens during late night hours or in moments when we are looking for distraction or connection. So it's just not about the content, it's about the relationship we have with the content and the way we consume it. So now that we understand what doom scrolling is, hopefully, let's look at how it became a daily habit for so many of us. First of all, the environment is perfectly set up for it because we have a 24/7 news cycle, sensational headlines, social media platforms that prioritize content that gets emotional reactions, and often these reactions are fear, anger, or outrage. Add in smartphones and constant notifications, and we're never far from a stream of information, whether we want it or not. Then there's a psychological side, and each time we check our phone, we might find something new, something shocking, something important, or we think we will. And that uncertainty triggers the brain's reward system. I don't know if you're exactly familiar with the reward system. Later, in a few minutes, we will watch a video about that, a short video. We get a little dopamine hit, okay, similar to gambling behavior, which makes us come back for more. And that's exactly the reward system based on. There's also the fear of missing out. What if something urgent is happening? What if, I don't know, everyone else knows something and I don't know it, etc. So don't forget the larger context. We've all lived through years of global uncertainty. Just remember the pandemic, all these wars, climate concerns, financial instability all the time. And these stressors naturally drive people to seek answers or reassurance, even if what they find only adds to the anxiety. So let me remind you that doom scrolling isn't just a personal flaw. It's not about you personally. It's a habit formed at the intersection of technology, psychology, and a turbulent world. And just 2 minutes ago, I told you about the reward system. Do you want to see a short video with me about the reward system?
Doom scrolling is the world's newest addiction, and here's why. Marketing companies have really figured out how our brains work, and they're using that knowledge to keep us hooked. They play with our brain's reward system, targeting the areas responsible for our emotions and those little dopamine hits we crave. But it doesn't stop there. They also tap into our fear circuitry by spreading alarming news and sensationalized content that triggers our amygdala, the part of the brain that processes perceived threats. This creates a sense of urgency and anxiety that makes it tough to put our phones down. Every time we scroll, we get a little rush of either dopamine or cortisol, depending on what we're reading, which just keeps us addicted to those intense emotions. The reality is that our brains can't handle that much stimulation all the time. Breaking the cycle might sound simple, but it's definitely not easy. So we've shared a few ways to help you reclaim your time and peace of mind in the description box.
Okay, I will share some tips, not in the description box, but later on, so stay with me for these tips. Let's move on. And now let's dig into what's happening inside our brains when we doom scroll. When we see new or surprising information, our brain releases dopamine. Maybe you know what dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. And this is why checking our phones can feel satisfying in the short term. It's because of dopamine. Doom scrolling is tricky because much of the content is negative or stressful. I bet you know that. And that triggers our brain's stress response, raising cortisol levels and anxiety. Now, despite feeling anxious, we're compelled to keep scrolling, hoping to find answers, hoping to find reassurance, or I don't know, something positive maybe. And this creates a habit loop where dopamine rewards the act of checking, but stress builds with the content we consume. Over time, this loop can reinforce compulsive behavior, making it hard to stop even when we know it's harming us. And the constant stress also reduces our brain's ability to recover emotionally, leaving us vulnerable to burnout or depression. So, understanding this biological cycle, because it is a biological cycle, is the key to breaking it. Now, let's explore how the digital world is wired up to keep us hooked, specifically the role of algorithms. Most social media platforms use the so-called sophisticated algorithms that curate your content based on what you've engaged with in the past. This means that if you're frequently reacting to negative headlines or emotional posts, the algorithm learns that, and this is what grabs your attention, and it will provide it you again with this. So the goal of these algorithms is to boost engagement, often measured in clicks, in likes, in shares, and the content you see isn't necessarily what's most beneficial for your mental health. Instead, it's the type that generates strong emotional reactions, even if that means more negativity. And this tailored experience can and will create echo chambers where you're mostly exposed to ideas and viewpoints that match your own or maybe confirm your own fears. This limits exposure to diverse perspectives. This can identify feelings of isolation or anxiety. And in essence, the more you interact with certain types of content, the more the algorithm reinforces that behavior, creating a cycle of reinforcement. Each engagement leads to more of the same, thereby deepening the habit of doom scrolling. And that's the easiest way to explain it. This understanding is crucial because if we want to reclaim control over our digital lives, we must be aware of how these systems work, unfortunately, against us. So now that we've talked about algorithms, we'll shift to what's happening in our minds. I mean, the psychological biases that make doom scrolling feel almost irresistible. And first, I have to mention the negativity bias. As humans, we are wired to pay more attention to threats than to neutral or positive information. Okay, I don't know if you can see clearly this picture I chose. So from an evolutionary standpoint, this kept us safe, but in the digital world, it kept us glued to bad news. And that's the first point I want to make. The second one is that we fall into confirmation bias, the tendency to seek and interpret information in a way that confirms our existing beliefs or fears. So if you're anxious about a situation, you're more likely to click on content that reinforces that worry. The third is that there's something called the variable reward system. I mean, we've noticed that a few minutes ago. It's the same principle used in slot machines. When we scroll, we don't know what we'll find next. Maybe a shocking headline, a funny meme, a useful update. That unpredictably keeps us hooked. And finally, especially on social media, of course, we're exposed to social comparison. I mean, even in the middle of a crisis, we might see others seemingly coping better or thriving or, I don't know, having more clarity. And this can deepen our own sense of anxiety or inadequacy. All of these factors combine to make doom scrolling a habit, reinforced by both our internal psychology and external tech design. That's why I mentioned earlier the habit loop. Now let's take a closer look at the mental health toll doom scrolling can take. Most commonly, people report increased anxiety and stress. Constantly consuming distressing news makes the world feel unsafe and unpredictable, and this fuels a sense of fear, especially when we feel powerless to change anything. Also, there's something called cognitive overload, that means that our brains are not designed to absorb endless streams of information, especially without time to process or reflect. And this can lead to mental fatigue, decision paralysis, and maybe difficulty concentrating. Over time, this constant exposure to crisis and negativity can create feelings of hopelessness or even depression. And at this point, I have to admit that numbers and rates of depression are unfortunately so high due to doom scrolling. Some people describe, not only due to doom scrolling, I mean, that's a cause too. And some people describe becoming emotionally numb, as though nothing surprises or moves them anymore. And of course, doom scrolling often happens late at night, which directly impacts our sleep. I mean, we stay up longer, the emotional stimulation makes it harder to unwind, leading to poor sleep quality and less resilience the next day. And that's also a loop. So what starts as a simple scroll through headlines can end up seriously affecting our emotional stability, focus, and physical health. Okay, now, how do we know if we've slipped into a doom scrolling loop? Okay, we've mentioned all that earlier. How do we know that we've slipped into this loop? It can often creep up subtly, so I have some clear self-assessment cues to watch out for. I will start with this losing track of time cue. So if you find yourself losing track of time while scrolling, and that's often, it is a red flag, okay? Maybe you thought you checked for 5 minutes and later you're on, and that suddenly you see that it's been 30, it's been 50, it's been an hour and a half. That's the first thing. Second, consider how you feel after scrolling. I mean, if you notice an increase in anxiety, in tension, or a sense of helplessness, that's also a key emotional signal. Another common sign is scrolling despite feeling tired. I think we've been all there, especially late at night. You may know you should sleep, you want to sleep, you feel tired, but your thumb keeps moving, and that's your brain locked in a loop. It's not only your thumb, it's your brain. And if you're checking multiple times per hour, that's also a red flag. That may indicate compulsive behavior rather than intentional use. I mean, you don't always want to check your cell phone. And also, if you notice that you're mentally drained, but still refreshing your feed, looking for something, I don't know, something, anything, that's a behavioral trap. Perhaps most importantly, if you ask me, it's when you've tried to stop and found it difficult, even when you want to. That's a clear indication you're caught in a loop. And these cues aren't meant to induce guilt, okay? You're not guilty of anything. They're rather to raise awareness. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward changing them. And hopefully, after the end of this presentation, we will all help ourselves to do so. Now, at this point, we've seen how doom scrolling can affect us individually, but it also leads to broader psychological patterns like news fatigue and learned helplessness. I will on detail explain them. News fatigue is that feeling when you just can't take in any more bad news. You might find yourself emotionally flat, turning off or turning out because it just all too much. Ironically, this can happen even to people who care deeply about the world. We become, how can I say that? We become numb. Okay, I don't know if you're familiar with Pink Floyd's song "Comfortably Numb." that's exactly what we become, numb, not because we don't care, but because we've been overexposed to crisis with no time to process or act. And this leads into a related concept, the learned helplessness. Psychologically, when we are repeatedly faced with negative events, especially things we can't control, we start to believe that nothing we do will make a difference. And here I have to say that this started as an experiment back in 1967 from a psychologist named Martin Seligman with dogs. And these dogs didn't try to escape of a bad situation they were put in because they thought that nothing they do will stop the shock. That's exactly what we do. And that belief reduces our motivation to engage with news, with causes, even, I don't know, with our communities. We may start avoiding the news entirely or disconnect emotionally, leading to what's called compassion fatigue and burnout. The real danger is that this doesn't just affect our mood, it affects our willingness to participate, to vote, to help, to act, to communicate. That has major societal implications. Now, in addition to emotional and psychological impacts, doom scrolling and overexposure to digital media can significantly undermine our cognitive performance and productivity. It's taking a toll on our attention spans. When we constantly jump from one headline to another, our brains adapt to rapid context switching, making it harder to focus on longer, more meaningful content like, I don't know, books, essays, even conversations. And this is especially problematic when we paired with constant interruptions, notifications, alerts, breaking news updates. All this create a state of fragmented attention, making it difficult to enter a flow state or engage in deep focused work. And over time, all this contributes to mental fatigue. That means that our brains are overloaded with information, often with no time to process or reflect, which affects not only productivity but also our ability to think creatively, or solve complex problems. And finally, there's a simple but powerful consequence: time loss. Many of us spend hours each week or even each day on low value, repetitive content that doesn't contribute to our goals or well being. And this is time we don't get back. Time loss is something that we won't get back. Now, the social dilemma, as I named this slide. To truly understand the doom scrolling crisis, we also need to look beyond individual behavior and explore the systemic forces shaping our digital environments. One core idea is this: you are not the customer, you are the product. I bet you've heard that before. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are free to use because their real customers are advertisers and their goal is to keep your attention for as long as possible. So the product is you. And this is what we call the attention economy, where time, clicks, engagement are the currency. In attention economy, the currency is time, clicks, and engagement. And the longer you scroll, the more ads you see and the more money the platform makes. And this means their algorithms are optimized not for truth, not for accuracy or mental health, but for maximum engagement. And what drives engagement best, unfortunately, is often negativity, outrage, and conflict. And that's why algorithms tend to amplify controversial or distressing content, even if it distorts reality or increases anxiety, I mean, they don't care about it. In essence, we build systems where mental health and social harmony are sacrificed for ad revenue. And this isn't about blaming users, it's not about blaming yourselves. It's about understanding the digital architecture we're all navigating. The good news, once we see how these systems work, we can begin to push back and take back control. So that's the shift we're moving into next. Now the big question, can we actually break this cycle, the cycle of doom scrolling? Can we stop doom scrolling? And the answer is yes. That begins with awareness, simply recognizing the science, understanding the psychology, and naming the system at play put us back in a position of strength. And importantly, this isn't about quitting technology or throwing, I don't know, your cell phone in the sea. It's about making small intentional changes that help you feel more in control and less overwhelmed. And there are practical tools, both mental and digital, that can support healthier habits. You don't have to rely on willpower alone, okay? Above all, I want to emphasize that you have agency. Algorithms may be powerful, but we're not powerless. With even a few shifts, we can start to move from passive consumption to purposeful, conscious engagement. And in my next few slides, I'll walk you through practical strategies for doing exactly that. But we will start with how we define and practice mindful media consumption. Okay, what does actually mean to consume media mindfully? And its core, it's about awareness and intention rather than opening an app out of boredom or out of habit. We start by asking, why am I here? What am I looking for? Okay, that tiny pause can shift your relationship with your screen. Mindful media consumption means choosing your content based on your goals, your values, your emotional state, not just letting the algorithm decide what's next. And I will give you a practical definition to anchor this idea. It's the intentional use of media aligned with your values, your needs, and your mental well being. When you scroll with intention, whether it's to stay informed, connect with your peers, relax consciously, I don't know, you're more likely to notice how content makes you feel and when it's time to stop. The benefits are significant because now you have less anxiety, greater clarity, and more control over your digital experience. And that means you become the driver, not the passenger in your online journey. Now, next we'll explore how to create boundaries that support this mindset, make it easier to follow through. Building a more mindful relationship with our devices doesn't just happen by willpower. We need to design our environment to support healthier choices. And that's where digital boundaries come in. Think of them as the fences that help protect your time, your attention, and well being from constant interruption. I would suggest the time boxing, setting specific windows during the day when you allow yourself to check the news or scroll through social media. You can even set a 15-minute timer to create a clear start and end. Second, you may use app limits. I mean, most cell phones now let you set daily usage caps for specific apps, or you can use blockers to pause access during work hours or evenings. Or you can designate device-free zones in your life. That might mean no phones in the bedroom, no phones at the dinner table during some creative work sessions. And these physical boundaries help reinforce mental ones. Maybe there are simple boundaries, but these create space not just on your calendar, but in your mind. And they reduce the habit of compulsive checking and allow your brain to reset. So let's look at how to bring awareness into the moments when we do scroll, because most of us aren't quitting scrolling altogether. That's impossible, I guess. The first shift is to pause before you open an app and ask yourself, why am I doing this right now? Am I bored, anxious, looking for something specific? And that tiny check helps interrupt the habit. So, as you scroll, do a self audit also, okay? Notice your emotional state. Are you feeling informed or overwhelmed? Are you feeling inspired or irritated? Your emotions are a powerful feedback system. And I will also suggest a simple framework I love, and is the traffic light technique. You can use it. Red means stop if your feed is triggering anxiety, comparison, or doom. Yellow means pause and ask, do I want to keep scrolling? Is it serving me? And green, okay, go on if you're engaging intentionally and positively. Finally, don't forget to tidy your feed, curate your digital space the way you'd clean a room. And that means unfollow accounts that drain you, follow that informed uplift or make you feel critically. And mindful scrolling isn't about being perfect, it's about staying connected to your purpose, even online. So let's be honest, as I told you earlier, trying to change tech habits with just willpower is like going on a diet, I don't know, in a bakery. And here in Greece, we have incredible bakery. So that's why supportive tools can make a huge difference. There are apps that interrupt automatic behavior, like Forest, that gamifies your focus by growing a virtual tree when you stay off your phone, like OneSec, that adds a breathing pause before opening social apps. It's a great way to breathe the autopilot. Freedom blocks access to distracting websites during set hours, and I suggest that you use browse extensions. Newsfeed Eradicator replaces your Facebook or X feed with an inspiring quote, and Undistracted lets you hide endless scroll features and sidebars that lure you in. And also, please rethink your notifications. Most of them are noise, not signal. So turn off the non-essentials and group the rest into daily batches. These tools don't replace awareness, but they support your intentions. They create just enough fiction to remind you, wait, do I really want to do this right now? So ask yourself once again, and our tech can work for us, not against us. I will repeat that. So far, we've talked about setting boundaries and using tools. Now let's focus on how we show up online, because not all scrolling is bad. It depends on how and why we do it. And the key is to move from passive consumption to active intentional use. When we're scrolling passively, we are reacting, okay? Just watching whatever the algorithm feeds us. But when we shift to active use, we become curators of our own experience. So instead of asking what's new, please ask, what do I want to learn, feel, or connect with today? That mindset shift changes everything. Don't just scroll, okay? Interact. Leave a comment, share a thoughtful post, write something yourself. And when we create or connect, we reclaim our digital agency. And this is also about curating your feeds with intention. So follow people who inspire, challenge, or teach you, and unfollow or mute what triggers anxiety, outrage, or comparison. And finally, choose value over volume. 10 minutes of meaningful content beats an hour of mindless sweeping. When you treat your attention as precious, your online world becomes more purposeful. So now that we've explored strategies and tools, you might be wondering, should I just quit social media altogether? Should I go on the digital detox? I must admit that there's no one size fits all answer, and that brings us to the distinction between digital detox and digital discipline. A digital detox is when you completely unplug for a weekend, a day, or even a week. And it's great for interrupting patterns, reconnecting with the offline world and getting perspective. But here's the catch: detoxes don't always lead to lasting change. If we don't address the underlying habits, we often slip right back into the same behaviors, unfortunately. So let's move to digital discipline. Because this, on the other hand, is about long-term sustainable engagement. It's choosing to stay connected, but with intentions, with boundaries and awareness. And it's not about perfection, it's about making conscious, repeated choices day after day that serve your well-being. And both detox and discipline have value. So a detox can be a reboot, but discipline is the maintenance plan. I must admit that at this point I wanted to show you an award-winning short film, but I guess I don't have time to do so, so I will move on to my next slide. So it's easy to think that the solution is to cut tech out completely, but the reality is technology isn't the enemy. I've mentioned that so many times today. It's how we engage with it that makes the difference. So instead of trying to quit tech, the real goal is to build a healthier relationship with it, one rooted in awareness, purpose, and boundaries. That begins with a reframe. So again, ask yourself regularly, is this app or platform adding something valuable to my life? Am I using it to connect, to create, to learn, or is just to numb and scroll? Okay, again, remember Pink Floyd, comfortably numb. And establish intentional routines. How you begin and end your day matters. Try starting your mornings without your phone. As difficult as this might seem, creating screen-free wind down rituals at night. Make sure to balance online and offline life. So prioritize, please, conversations that happen face to face. Spend time in nature or move your body. I don't know, anything you wish. And finally, be kind to yourself. That means you will sleep, and that's okay. Okay, we all sleep. What matters is noticing when it happens and gently returning to your intention. Awareness is the real success. And this journey isn't about restriction, it's about reconnection to yourself, to others, and what really matters. Okay, so let me pause here and share a short personal story, one that might sound familiar to most of you. During the early days of the pandemic, I, like many others, was glued to the news, and I told myself that I was staying informed and being responsible, so on and so forth. That truthfully, I was doom scrolling. Every spare moment, I was checking headlines and numbers and crises over and over again. And it took a while to notice what it was doing to me. I was anxious all the time. I was tense, distracted. Most worryingly, I couldn't remember the last time I read something positive. It felt like I was addicted to the next catastrophe, and the wake-up call came during a particularly long night of scrolling. I asked myself, is any of this helping you, Anna? And of course, the answer was no. So I tried something simple. I challenged myself to spend only 1 week being intentional offline, totally offline. And I tracked how I felt. The result, I was more grounded, more peaceful. I was finally back in control. And this experience reminded me that real change doesn't always require big leaps. Sometimes it starts with one small step, okay? So now I'd like to invite you to reflect, what's one small change you could make starting today after this presentation. We will discuss this in about 5 minutes. So before we close, let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today. We defined doom scrolling as a habitual, often compulsive engagement with negative digital content, especially news. We explored why it happens, the role of dopamine, negativity bias, and algorithms designed to keep us engaged, but not necessarily informed or being well. We looked at the mental and societal costs, from anxiety and learned helplessness to productivity loss and emotional fatigue. But we didn't stop there. We turned towards solutions. We talked about tools, boundaries, practices that help us scroll with awareness and intention, not compulsion. And of course, we zoomed out to ask what kind of a digital change do we want to make? What kind of digital life do we want? I bet one of balance, not burnout. So this is the books I used for my presentation. I want to thank you for your time. And this isn't just a talk, it's an invitation to, I don't know, just to pause, notice, and take back your power, not by rejecting technology, but by becoming more conscious. I'd love to leave you with this question again. What's one small digital habit you'd like to change starting today after my presentation? Maybe it's muting one app or pausing before you open a new tab. Whatever it is, please start it today. And I've also shared some recommended tools. If you'd like to continue the conversation, stay in touch. I have to admit that I do not use any social media platform except from LinkedIn. So you can see my LinkedIn, and Orfanidou, if you wish, you can find me there, or you can email me. I'd love to connect. And please remember, it's not about quitting your phone. It's about choosing how you live with it. So at this point, I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was a really, really fabulous talk. And I think, yeah, if I just, the balance of kind of giving us that information about what doom scrolling is, what it's doing to our brains, you know, why it might be really difficult for us to control ourselves, but also some tips and tricks. You got me thinking about what my one small digital change might be.
Would you like to answer to that?
Well, so I think what I do, and I don't think I doom scroll for, you know, necessary, like for a very, very long in the day. And I'm like you, I don't have much social media, actually. I do check my phone first thing in the morning, and I do check the news first thing in the morning. So I think actually I don't need to do that. I don't need to check the news as the first thing I do in the morning.
Can I suggest something? Can I suggest something here, Kyla? Just try to do that for 1 week, okay? Or start from 3 days. I don't know. Don't try to change it all at once, okay? Small steps. Maybe that will be more helpful for you.
Yeah, and I think your advice, you know, it's not about getting rid of this completely. We actually need smartphones in our lives. We need it more and more for multi-factor authentication, for work practices, and all these sorts of things in our lives. So actually, it's about how we manage that. We've got a few questions. So
and think of the knife. Sorry for interrupting. Think of the knife. We cut bread, but I can stab you.
Yeah.
Also, okay.
Yeah.
So technology is like the knife.
Yeah, and I also really liked it when you know, to remind us to think about the fact that we're a product for a lot of these websites, right? To remind ourselves of that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the questions. We've got a few, so thanks everybody for posting your questions before Anna's talk ended. Feel free to post more now, and we'll see if we can get through them all. Okay, so the first question then, how does the time spent doom scrolling differ between age groups, sexes, and countries? It's quite a big question. Do younger people scroll more than older people? Do women scroll longer than men? Which country has the highest time spent doom scrolling? So I guess maybe, you know, it would be difficult for you to answer all of that, but maybe to think about particular vulnerable groups with doom scrolling that you know about. You know, I guess also for targeted, you know, this is about individual differences a little bit.
To be honest, I don't have the numbers right now. I have to make research on that. But from the books I read about this presentation, and from the things I have read for my dissertation, I know that unfortunately young people tend to doom scroll a lot, and later on, not between the age of 25 to 45, but later on, I mean 55, 60 plus. And now maybe you wonder, do they scroll at all? Yes, they do, because I mean, let's be honest, all of us have a cell phone, and maybe you give your grandmother a cell phone and she will notice that unfortunately. And it is so terrible as she was used to read the newspaper headlines. It's exactly like that.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. Okay, so the next question then. I'm a late diagnosed ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I'm guessing. And I feel that phone scrolling is one of my regulating mechanisms. So that's quite interesting, actually. So they say, I find it relaxing and engaging. I mainly look at news and politics. It gives my brain new information and dopamine. So adverse effects, in my opinion, may be less for the neurodivergent. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? That actually for some people it can be positive.
If I got this question correctly, she cannot, she or he, I don't know, focus on something, maybe while reading the news, and she finds it or he finds it relaxing to scroll down just to see something. Unfortunately, studies have shown that this is exactly why we cannot focus, because we scroll all the time. Okay, it's a vice versa thing, because we don't focus on something that's longer, that's maybe more interesting, like reading a book, for example. Scrolling, it's like doing these things with in casinos with the slot machines. Okay, it triggers. Do you remember the short video we watched earlier? It's like it triggers your dopamine and you just want to see what's more, what's next. And that unfortunately doesn't allow you to focus.
Mm. Yeah, so actually you mean it could feel like it's something positive at the time, but actually in terms of the impact in the rest of your life, it could actually be having a negative
It's the reason, it's one of the reasons, to be exact. It's one of the reasons why you cannot focus. I mean, you take a book and you cannot even read the first page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So the next question, also a little bit related. So if doom scrolling triggers our pleasure centers with negative content, is there any evidence of increased masochistic behavioral thoughts in those who doom scroll the most? Yeah. Does it link
I would ask you to excuse me on that because I don't have evidence through studies, but I can, if you want, we can connect. You can email me and I will find some interesting evidence about that, if there are, I mean, any.
Okay, so yeah, if that participant wants to email Anna directly, she will kind of answer that specifically. Okay, so the next question: when I'm relaxed, I don't even think about scrolling. But as soon as I have something urgent to do, like an exam, I start doom scrolling, and strangely, it feels calming. Why does this happen, especially when it's not even a regular habit for me? I've also heard that deleting and reinstalling the app repeatedly can help your brain stop reaching for it. Does that actually work?
Okay, thank you. That's a really interesting question, a tricky one, I must admit. I would suggest here that, I mean, I don't know if this helps you during the exams or in a stressful situation, but I would suggest that if you want to do so, please don't push yourself to the limits, okay? Just try to actually doom scroll for, I don't know, 5 minutes less than the previous day, okay? 10 minutes less. And that will help you remember that we cannot quit all this at once, okay? Remember that we all can, and we have the tools. I gave you the tools to help ourselves by doing a small step every day, okay? Don't try to say, okay, now I'm a loser and I doom scroll all the time and I don't read for my exams, I'm not studying, and no, don't do that, please. We will sleep, we will fall, but rise again. I mean, we're like Phoenix after all.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, there's another question that's a little bit related in terms of the tips. You know, the question is, what would be your advice for a student struggling to focus on their study because of browsing the smartphone?
Oh, God.
I think you answered that a little bit in the last.
Maybe try to, I don't know, lock your phone for 1 hour. Or just say that yes, you can do so. You can do so, please. put my mail there. Maybe you can lock your phone for 1 hour, or just say to your roommate, to your mother, to your sister, can you please hold this just for 1 hour, okay? Maybe if anything else isn't really helping you, do so. I mean, it's an easy tip.
I sometimes use that one. I think there's a few of them, isn't it? A forest app. Mine one is, so you like tap it for 25 minutes and it won't let you access your phone, and it grows a tree for you on your.
Yes.
So I think there's different things like that on there. Another comment here, so just a comment really rather than a question. Really interesting, thank you. My habit is to read more physical books, poetry especially. I deleted my social media accounts a few years back and it was a great decision for me.
Oh, I'm so glad for you. I've never used social media, and I'm only using LinkedIn because I'm now on my final stage of my doctoral dissertation, and I am only using it for that. I promise that once I am done with it, I will also delete even LinkedIn. And can I share a secret with you guys? I feel a free person without social media. I'm free. You can be too.
I'm going to just jump down the list a little bit, just because I think this is really interesting about a specific age group where there's been a lot of media coverage about mental health, vulnerability, and also kind of questions about phone, in terms of kind of app access and debate. So the question is, what would you suggest is the means for treating doom scrolling in adolescents aged 10 to 12 who are prone to more severe doom scrolling, are stubborn and bored in their spare time and won't listen to their parents?
Yes. That might sound heretic, but I will say it because that's what I actually believe. Don't give children cell phones, and don't allow them, I will use this verb, to use social media, because it's not something that you can do to help them. They are just children. You cannot, now we're having this discussion, okay, you can understand actually, because you felt this. They're children, they do not know how to deal with it, okay? Just give them some other options there. Go outside, play games, actually. Sorry if I sound heretic, but that's my suggestion, and that's my opinion.
Thanks, Anna. So for some people or some groups, you do feel that actually smartphones are not appropriate. And I think that is, I think that's definitely an interesting debate. Another question here. So do you think we will come to see the impact of social media doom scrolling as on a par with other addictions such as alcohol? Do the tech companies need to be held more accountable and e.g. comply with health warnings as we see on cigarette packets?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. And to be honest, I read the other day that during the last 5 years, number one addiction, it's not drugs anymore, not alcohol, not sugar, not nicotine, it's social media. So you can imagine that this is more crucial to deal with. I mean, of course, I'm not implying that we don't have to deal with drugs and alcohol, but it's number one during the last 5 years. Can you get it? It's absurd, huh?
I think I'll just read one more question for you, and then maybe a quick comment before we wrap up. So with doom scrolling, there is the secondary issue my international friends and I have found, which is pebbling. I haven't heard of that. We send videos on social media as a means of low energy communication and connection, which has made reducing quitting social media difficult. In an age of multi-country friendships and differing schedules, what alternate methods of keeping connected could spoonies people with conditions that reduce their energy use? So I guess this is how to feel connected.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, you can use the knife for cutting bread and for stabbing someone in the back, okay? So maybe we have to find ways to deal with it and not to delete technology. I mean, let's be honest, we cannot do that, okay? But have it in our lives in a more positive way. We cannot get rid of technology. We cannot get rid. Okay, maybe some people can. Okay, I don't use your social media. It's not so difficult for me. I would suggest that to try this just for a week, and you can keep a diary of writing what things you have done during this week without social media and scrolling down. But let's be honest, it's difficult not to quit at once social media or all these platforms. Maybe now it's time for us to act. Maybe it's time for us to find these tools and to show all these tools to youngsters, how to engage with awareness in technology. That would be my answer.
Yeah, I think you had some really good slides as well around thinking about mindful attention, you know, thinking about actually what effect these things are having on us, and use it, you know, making use of that so that you can really be aware. And I think that was really great. Such great advice, Anna. Thank you so much.
I was delighted.
I think we'll leave the questions there. I didn't get to ask mine, but I think it covered, you know, we covered a lot of areas with the questions. So thanks so much from the participants for you all.
I was delighted to be here with you, Kyla, and with all of you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
We can't give you a clap, but hopefully, you know, you can tell there's a virtual clapping going on here for a really brilliant presentation and discussion on doom scrolling and mental health. And thanks again to Anna, to all your questions and engagement with today's session. I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival.
Bye.
Bye.